Hey, Jeff here. Welcome back to Doggy Quick Tips, and this week it's a special edition. A couple of people had asked me if I can put all the videos together for them or send them a whole bunch of links with all the videos. And of course, I got the light bulb over my head and I said, well, heck, I've been doing this for 2 months now. Why don't I do a special edition of Doggy Quick Tips and put all the Doggy Quick Tips together in one video, one right after the other, so people could actually just sit down for 45 minutes and get a pretty decent education with all the quick tip videos combined. And yes, I heard people asking me about my hat because I wear the Adopt a Pitbull hat in all of my videos, and they're like, where do you get it? Where do you get it? So I'll drop the link below. It is on my website, Adopt a Pitbull. It comes in a whole bunch of colors too, so feel free to check that out. And enjoy the Doggy Quick Tips Special Edition series. It's coming up now, and what I did was, in between each Doggy Quick Tips video, I just put a quick 1-second black box so you know that there's separation between the videos if you want to pause it, you know, maybe go grab a drink or some snacks and then come back and reconvene. So I hope you enjoy it, and thank you for the couple of people that actually gave me this idea. It's time again for Doggy Quick Tips. And today we're going to be talking about how positive reinforcement is ruining our dogs. Yeah, it's true. I said it. Positive reinforcement is ruining our dogs. How in the world could such a wonderful training technique be ruining our dogs, you might ask? It's really simple. Why does a dog sit when we teach it how to sit? When we teach a dog to sit and we give the dog a reward, a treat, that dog is more likely to reproduce that behavior in order to get that treat, right? Why does a dog pull on the leash? In all likelihood, it's because he's getting where he wants to go by pulling. What about the dog that always seems to be on top of you? Do you ever wonder how this behavior came about? Or the dog that's constantly surfing the counter? Do you think that happens by accident? What about the dog that's prone to mounting or humping? Do you ever consider the origin of this type of behavior? Positive reinforcement simply means that you add something desirable to the dog's environment to increase a behavior. It's that simple. Add something positive, behavior increases. That's positive reinforcement. Well, positive reinforcement isn't only about cookies or biscuits or yummy jerky treats. Positive reinforcement must be defined by the dog, not we humans. I shared in one of my other videos how dogs learn, which you could take a look at. I'll put the link in one of those spots on how dogs learn, right? Dogs, they perpetuate successful behaviors. They abandon unsuccessful behaviors. The success of a behavior is defined by the dog, not us. Just like positive reinforcement is defined by the dog, not us. So if your dog jumps up on you and you pet your dog or gaze lovingly into her or his eyes, that is positive reinforcement. That behavior is more likely to reproduce itself. That behavior will become stronger. That behavior will become more reliable to the dog. And most of us don't want a jumping dog. Yet that's exactly what we're creating. So yes, positive reinforcement is ruining our dogs. Focus on your dog and what your dog perceives as a positive reward. It's really simple. There are a variety of ways we can positively reinforce our dog's behavior. It's not just about something that your dog can ingest. Food, treats, affection, coming up onto the furniture, going for a walk, eye contact, any kind of attention could potentially be interpreted by the dog as a positive reward. And think about how we train our dogs. Even the most traditional of dog trainers uses positive reinforcement to teach new behaviors. And pet owners almost always are inadvertently rewarding unwanted behaviors. So first we have to identify any areas where we might inadvertently be rewarding unwanted behaviors. You can't put a fire out with kerosene, okay? So it's up to us as owners to make sure that we are creating and teaching behaviors that we want our dogs to perpetuate, not the other way around. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, so hopefully you get the gist of this little Doggy Quick Tips video. We don't want to inadvertently reward unwanted behaviors. So whenever you're in doubt, you have to ask yourself, is this a behavior that I want my dog to perpetuate? If the answer is no, I don't want my dog doing this, then you know that you might inadvertently be rewarding that very behavior you want to eradicate. So keep these few things in mind, and if you need a little reminder, here's a little tidbit that might jar your memory. Ignore crazy and reward calm. That's right, simply put, reward behaviors you want your dog to perpetuate, ignore behaviors you want to eradicate. And sure, there are other ways to correct or modify behaviors, but for the purpose of what we're talking about here, where positive reinforcement is potentially ruining our pets, we have to keep the one main focus in mind. Stop inadvertently rewarding unwanted behavior. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for stopping by and checking out Doggy Quick Tips. And if you're new to the channel, take a peek around, look at my other videos. If you like what you see and you want to stay up to date on content that I upload, consider subscribing. Welcome back to Doggy Quick Tips. And today we're going to be talking about breed characteristics. Is your dog experiencing behavioral problems, or is she or he acting exactly the way they're supposed to? Is your herding dog constantly patrolling your property? Maybe your dog won't let people leave. And what about your hound? Is your hound all nose and just seems like he won't listen or perform any obedience commands? And what about your little terriers, or terrors as some people call them? Are they constantly chasing stuff? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. If you want to stay up to date on topics like this, or dog training, dog health, or dog rescue topics, consider subscribing to the channel. And don't forget, click that bell and you'll get notified every time I upload new content. So here we are talking about the wonderful world of dog breeds, and why do all these breeds do what they do? Almost every dog known to man was bred by man for a purpose. And granted, in today's day and age, we have all these designer dogs now, but every single dog at their core, they were bred at some point in their ancestry for a purpose. Our dogs were bred for a function in most cases, and even if they weren't at some point in their ancestry, there was some purpose to why men created them. And that's why they do half the crap that they do. Our dogs were bred for a function in most cases, and even if they weren't at some point in their ancestry, there was some purpose to why men created them. And these functions that dogs were created for, sometimes they translate into domestic life as behavioral problems. And almost always, they're not behavioral problems as far as the dog is concerned, but as far as their human caregivers, yes, they can be perceived by humans as behavioral problems. That terrier that's digging up your yard, I got news for you. That is not a behavioral problem. It's a breed characteristic. It's a trait. But for people with those really green lawns and those immaculate gardens, yes, it's a behavioral problem. And we'll talk about a solution in a minute, but first, this is what you really need to think about, and this is where some research on your part as a dog owner comes in handy. And it's really simple. Obviously, you could search the internet, but I always tell people, go to any kennel club's website and do some research on breed groups, specifically the breed of dog that you have, or dogs if you have multiple dogs. The AKC, the American Kennel Club, their website has a lot of information on different breed groups and all the breeds of dogs that they register. Same holds true for the UKC, the United Kennel Club, and the ADBA, the American Dog Breeders Association. And there's other kennel clubs too that you can go to their websites, and there's an assortment of information on breed groups, breed characteristics, what they were bred for, some of the functions that the dogs do that we perceive as behavioral problems. It just takes a minute, right? Just hop on the web, do some research, go to these kennel club websites and take a look at the function of these dogs and spend a little time researching their ancestry as well. Why am I telling you to do this? Because it gives us a better understanding of why our dogs are doing what they're doing, which will help us modify or mediate these behaviors that are not aligning with domestic life and what we expect from our dogs. And for the record, I don't believe we should correct behaviors that are breed traits or characteristics. I think we should support these behaviors and give our dogs proper outlets to satisfy their innate desires to engage in functions and endeavors that bother the heck out of us. Like that terrier that's digging up the yard. Don't correct your dog. Yeah, you can increase obedience, and make sure that the dog's obedience is super reliable. But anytime a terrier is digging up a yard, my first line of defense is, well, hey, Let's help the dog. Let's support the dog. Let's build a sand pit. Take a corner of the yard. Maybe we'll put up a couple of railroad ties, put some play sand in there, bury some toys, and teach the dog where it's appropriate to dig. Just like housebreaking, right? We teach the dog where it's not appropriate to go to the bathroom, and we praise them for where it's appropriate. The same holds true for that terrier that's tearing up your yard. Build him a digging pit, a sand pit. Teach him where it's appropriate to dig. The dog will still be happy, and you'll be happier because your yard will be saved. And that working dog that you have that always seems to be bored and maybe is experiencing some behaviors in the house like destruction or some other behavior that is just not conducive to domestic life, that's it, your dog's probably bored. It's a working dog. Give it a job, right? And yeah, maybe you could walk the dog, you could exercise it, but maybe you throw a backpack on him when you walk him. Give the dog some kind of purpose. And you can also alleviate boredom by implementing kind of a resource control regimen where nothing in life is for free, where the dog is working all day long. And I'll post a video link up here to a video I did on how we implement resource control so we can constantly stimulate our dogs mentally all day long. Heck, I've even had clients that have said that they can't keep their darn dog out of the pool. Well, don't get a water dog then if you don't want your dog to go in the pool. That's not a behavioral problem. That's what they were bred to do for a living. So this stuff may seem superficial and it may seem like common sense, but you know what? All kidding aside, when people are experiencing behavioral problems with their dogs, sometimes they get in too deep and they can't see the bigger picture. They lose sight of why their dogs are doing what they're doing, and instead of trying to support their dog to help alleviate these behavioral problems, right, people resort to trying to correct them or do something else or bring the dogs elsewhere, or in really worst case scenarios, they try to rehome them. When all that's required is, hey, let's think of why the dog is doing this and help support the dog. And it doesn't matter what breed of dog you have. I don't care if it's little or big, or if it's lazy or if it's energetic. It doesn't matter. If you're experiencing some behavioral problems, remember, in all likelihood, they're probably not behavioral problems from the dog's point of view, right? The dog is probably doing something to alleviate something, some kind of anxiety or something that's lacking in her or his life. And it's our responsibility as dog owners and caregivers to give them everything they need. So if you're having a hard time with your dog, first consider, what was your dog bred for, right? Are any of the behaviors associated with any point in the dog's ancestry that could be contributing to the experiences that you're having? I don't like calling them problems, I call them experiences. So these behavioral problems that you may be experiencing, they just might be a breed characteristic or a breed trait that your dog does for a living. We don't see doctors selling cars, do we? No, we don't. We don't let our dentists do our accounting, do we? Dogs are the same way. They have a job, they have a function. Find out what your dog's function or job is. Give them that job. If you can't give them that job identically, think creatively. Try to come up with solutions to help solidify those behaviors into something more constructive. Like the aforementioned examples I've given, and herding dogs too. That's a big one. I get, people with herding dogs that have all sorts of issues, especially with little kids. They're constantly herding the kids around the herding, H-E-R-D, by the way, not H-U-R-T. Herding the kids around the house, or maybe they're nipping at the heels, right? One solution I've come up with over the years that does work sometimes, I tell people to get a remote control car. Go out in the backyard and have your herding dog herd the remote control car, right? Now, yeah, sometimes they get the car and they destroy it, but it's fun as heck anyway. Well, that's it for today. I know this was a quick, superficial video, but that's what the doggy quick tips are, right? So if you're having some issues, do some research, spend some time, take a look on Kennel Club websites, right? Find out what your dog does for a living or was bred to do for a living, and try to emulate that in your environment. Give your dog a job, give your dog purpose. You'll have a happier dog. Your dog will have a happier owner. Welcome back to Doggy Quick Tips. Today we're going to be talking about some of my favorite recreational chews and toys for dogs. Everyone knows I'm a pity lover, so it's always a challenge trying to find toys that are adorable. The other challenge is trying to find a nice recreational chew that they won't destroy or potentially hurt themselves destroying. And it's a question that I get asked often when people are looking into recreational chews that are safe and healthy for their dogs. So I came up with a short list. I actually put it on my website. I'll put the link up there. I'll also drop it in the comments below. But let's take a look at some of my recommendations. There are so many options available today for recreational chews. The hard part for me when offering advice to people is I don't know everyone's individual dog. So I had to find a balance between what is a good recreational chew and what is safe and healthy for most dogs. And that led me to this list that I'm showing you here. First is good old-fashioned cow ears. You can't go wrong with cow ears, and you can get them on a variety of websites. I usually get them on Chewy or Amazon, and you can get them bulk for like $50 for a 50 pack, so they're pretty inexpensive. Do they last an hour? No. They usually last anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes depending on the dog, but it's certainly a good recreational chew and really affordable, so you can give your dog a recreational chew every day. I really love beef trachea. They come in all sizes, 3-inch, 6-inch, 12-inch. And again, you can get a decent amount of them for pretty inexpensive, and it's a great and healthy recreational chew. Again, it doesn't last long like a knuckle bone or something like that, but it is a good, natural, safe, and healthy treat and inexpensive. And cow tendons, I love cow tendons. Again, the same rule applies as with the trachea and the cow ears. The tendons you can give them, once a day, twice a day if you want. Again, they don't last long, but they're good, quick hit recreational chews that they can ingest, and they're healthy. And of course, pig snouts. Not as common as the other things, but it's certainly a good, inexpensive recreational chew for them. And the beef lung that I have on here from Choppers, it's not necessarily a recreational chew. It doesn't last long, but it is a nice, healthy, meat-based crunch for your dog, especially because people give regular old dog biscuits. So if you're going to give regular old dog biscuits, you're better off opting for something like the Red Barn Choppers beef lung. It's a lot healthier, and it doesn't have all that starch and carbohydrates and sugar that regular dog biscuits have. And toys, we could get really carried away with toys, but again, this is a doggy quick tips video, so I just wanted to highlight some of my favorites. Obviously Kong, you can't go wrong with Kong. They are one of the most durable toys out there, and yes, I know some dogs can destroy them, but that's the whole point of toys, is for dogs to destroy them, play with them, interact with them. It's good for their mental stimulation. And Planet Dog, the Planet Dog Orbeez, I mean, these are really one of my favorite toys for dogs. They're fun, they're bouncy, you can throw treats in them, they're super durable. Now when you look at the globe, I've had dogs that they take the continents off of the globe, but the globe lasts a lot longer than the continents do if you have a really aggressive chewer. But the Planet Dog Orbeez, they are one of my favorite all-time toys. And the chili bone. The chili bones are great. I mean, they're intended for teething puppies. You're supposed to soak them in water and freeze them. I like to soak them in water with a little chicken broth and then freeze them so that has a little bit of that flavor to it. And it's not just for puppies, it's for any dogs. Granted, it does help puppies that are teething, because when puppies are teething, they're in pain. So the chili bone is really good for that, but it's good for any dog too. If they, especially if you have one of those dogs that are prone to suckling on blankets or something like that, it's a great option for you. The Katie Bumpers tug toys are phenomenal tug toys, right? I mean, they're made of fire hose, so unless you're going to be getting like Schutzhund type durable toys for tugging, the Katie Bumper is an excellent alternative, and I mean, they're really affordable too. Super fun, super durable, dogs love them, they last a long time, they're not cheap. I've been using Katie's Bumpers toys for, I don't know, maybe since 2005. My dogs absolutely love them. I use them for training, I use them for behavior modification. Awesome toys. And Westpaw toys. Westpaw toys are really durable as well. Obviously, aggressive chewers are going to destroy toys. There's no way around that. But the Westpaw dog toys, especially the Hurley, I love the Hurley. Sometimes dogs will just lay down with the Hurley between their paws while they're gnawing on it. But it's also a great fetch toy. Again, super durable. And if you're flinging it around the yard, sometimes it takes some weird hops. So it's a lot of fun. And the dogs love it. They absolutely love it. And Westpaw, they have a whole whole line of toys, but I just highlighted the Hurley here because it's the one I've been using for the longest. And remember, anytime you're introducing a new recreational chew or a new dog toy to your dog or puppy, make sure you supervise first. Dogs will respond to chews and toys differently, so it's important that as you get familiar with new toys or new chews, make sure you supervise your dog when you first give it to them. We never want to give our dogs anything new unsupervised. And that's just my rule of thumb for anything. Anytime there's something new, I always lean towards supervision. You probably saw my one video, I'll throw the link up there, about the definition of supervision. I'm pretty big on supervise. So I apologize if I beat that dead horse, but you'll probably hear me say that 100 more times. So these are just some recommendations. I'll have more recommendations as we go forward. I don't want to overwhelm people with like a gazillion recommended chews and treats or toys all in one video. So hopefully this helps. Again, check out the link in the description. It's my website, and I'll throw it up there real quick too, just so you can take a quick peek again. I know, yes. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Sable's excited because it's doggy quick tips time. Welcome back to Doggy Quick Tips. I appreciate you guys coming back to check me out. Hey, if this is your first time and you like my channel, consider subscribing. This way you get notified when I upload new content. All you gotta do is click on that bell. Today's Doggy Quick Tip is to help you keep your dog stimulated all day long, something I call resource control. Many of you have probably heard this before, referred to as nothing in life is for free. That's really what we're going to be talking about today. Nothing in life is for free. We got to make our dogs start earning their keep. The thing is this, two things happen all day long. Either we're working for our dogs or our dogs are working for us. I think you know which one we want. We really want our dogs working for us all day long. And you know what? That's really what they want too. No matter what the breed, most dogs are happiest when they're doing something for us. In the case of resource control, they're doing something for resources, whether that be us, or it could be food, treats, affection, playtime, going on a walk, toys. Bottom line is we need them to earn all of their resources. How do they earn them? They earn them by performing for us. And that's one of the reasons why obedience is so important. Sure, obedience is important because we need our dogs to be obedient, right? But obedience commands come into play with resource control as well. Dogs can perform a function to receive a resource, food, treats, affection, etc. So the question I get asked most about resource control is, how often should we make our dogs earn their resources? Can anyone guess? Come on. Pause the video, drop your comments below. How often? All the time. That's right, all the time. All day long, our dogs are earning all of their resources, or if you prefer to call them privileges, that's fine too. If they don't do something, they don't get anything. They have to do something in order to get something. Really simple. Think about it, a lot of you guys are already doing this with your pets. Before you feed them, you're probably making them sit before you put that food bowl down. That's resource control. But it comes in handy in other areas as well. Before you open that front door when you take them for a walk, make them sit before you open that door. Make them sit before you put the leash on, even better. The best thing about resource control is that it stimulates your dog all day long. It causes them to constantly look to work for resources. And guess what the best thing about resource control is? Training your dog becomes an all day, everyday thing. There's no more putting time aside to train your dog. You're training your dog all day long. Think about all their resources. They're all things that are good to them. They all constitute positive reinforcement when they work for them. And yes, we should still set time aside to train our dogs, but we don't have to with resource control. It becomes part of their everyday routine. That's really where we want our dogs to be. We want them to be constantly stimulated all day long, right? It's great to stimulate them physically, but true balance comes when we match the physical stimulation with the mental stimulation, and that's where resource control comes in. It stimulates them mentally. It makes them look to us for guidance, and before long, you know what happens? They start offering behaviors. We walk to the front door and we grab the leash, they automatically sit. That's the beautiful thing. It becomes habitual to the dog. And think about these habits that we're creating. They're good habits. And resource control in a nutshell is nothing in life is for free, right? Either your dog is working for you or you're working for your dog. Which one do you want? Hey, you know, some of you might want to work for your dogs. That's okay. I need my dogs to work for me because they're happier doing so. And whether you believe in leadership or guardianship, whatever you prefer to call it, resource control does help solidify us as resource providers. And they will be better dogs, they will be happier dogs, there will be more balanced dogs, and we will have a better relationship with our dogs. Welcome back to Doggy Quick Tips. Today we're going to be talking about how dogs learn. I'm sure all of you have heard about positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, all that psychology hoopla. Now, while all that stuff is important to we professionals, dog trainers, as it relates to you, the dog owner, I break it down very simply as to how dogs learn. To understand how dogs learn in the most simplest form is this. Dogs will perpetuate successful behaviors and they will abandon unsuccessful behaviors. It is really that simple. No matter what comes out of our mouths, all this psychology terminology and all this crap we talk about, you have to understand how dogs learn and perceive the world, right? They don't do things for no reason. See, unlike we humans, we do the same dumb stuff over and over again expecting different results. Dogs don't waste their energy on useless activities or useless behaviors. So if a behavior does not produce the end result that they're expecting, they will abandon that behavior. They will no longer participate in that endeavor. Behaviors that are ignored by the humans will become unsuccessful to the dog. Now, as it relates to successful behaviors, a dog will perpetuate successful behaviors. It's our job as guardians or leaders to make sure we're teaching dogs behaviors that are successful to us. In turn, the dogs will associate those behaviors to successful behaviors, therefore perpetuating those behaviors and aligning with our expectations of the dog. And that makes both dog and owner happier. Good boy. Now keep in mind, very important here, the success of a behavior is determined by the dog, not we humans, right? So if a dog jumps up on your counter and steals a steak, right? That's an unsuccessful behavior to the human, but as far as the dog is concerned, that was a successful behavior. That behavior will perpetuate, it will repeat itself, and if the dog is given enough of opportunities to steal stuff off the counter, that behavior will also become reliable. So that was our quick tip for today. Very simple terms. Dogs perpetuate successful behaviors, they abandon unsuccessful behaviors. So my wife made this little comment that the intro for this segment is kind of goofy. And you know what? I don't care, because every time I do this intro, I can only say it one way, and it's Doggy Quick Tips time! And on one of my earlier segments of Doggy Quick Tips, we covered what if our dog is too fat. So today we're going to talk about what if your dog is too skinny. So what should you do if your dog is too skinny? Well, first of all, let's take a look at what's too skinny. Clearly this dog is too skinny. Now this is obviously an exaggerated picture of a dog that's too skinny. Emaciated, really. I mean, you can see the ribs and the hip bones protruding. And this is a healthy looking dog. You see just a subtle ripple to the ribs, which you should see, and the hip bones are covered. This dog is lean and in great shape. And before I go on to offer suggestions, I do have to offer, look, if you think your dog is sick, go to the veterinarian, please. Don't hop on YouTube or Google to find out. If you think your dog has a medical issue, please go seek veterinary medical attention quickly. Thank you. So now that we got that out of the way, Why is your dog too skinny? Ironically, for some of the same reasons as to why our dogs are too fat. So let's start with the easy part, right? Are you feeding the right amount of food? Remember, recommended feedings on the back of all dog food bags, they're just that. They're recommendations, starting points, if you will. If you have a young dog or a higher energy dog, obviously you're going to need to increase the amount of food you're feeding regardless of what it says on the back of the bag. In fact, toy breeds, high energy breeds, or dogs that live a more active lifestyle, they could require up to 25% more calories, i.e. more food, every single day. And let's not forget about anxious dogs. Dogs that suffer from any kind of anxiety, they tend to burn more calories as well. Oftentimes you'll see really anxious dogs that are a little underweight. So you have to take that into account and feed accordingly. So if you have a 50-pound dog and the back of the bag says that you should feed 3 cups a day, but your dog is still too skinny, start simple and just add a little food every day and see how much weight your dog maintains or gains over the course of a 2-week period. And that's not the final solution. That's just to give you a benchmark of where your dog should be feeding and calorie-wise. And while feeding more food is the obvious and common sense approach, for some reason, not all pet owners do this, so that's why I had to offer that suggestion. But one thing I like to take into account is why certain dogs run a little leaner or burn a little more energy if they're on a specific food. And this video isn't even talking about quality of food and brands, right? That's a whole nother conversation, which we will have in the future. So for now, we're just gonna talk about whatever food you're feeding, right? The simple step is to start feeding a little more and to consider your breed, energy level, age, and your lifestyle and activity level of you and your dog, right? Because you could have a higher activity lifestyle than other people. So sure, you could start adding more food. What I like to do is I like to add more animal protein to the diet of a thin dog or a dog that's, just a little underweight. The reason being is dogs derive their energy first and foremost from animal fat, number 2 from protein. Animal protein. And animal protein obviously is made up of nitrogen and amino acids. That's really the fuel that feeds the body. So if we could do one simple thing and just add animal protein to our dog's diet, that would certainly help. In fact, I have a video on here to do a home prepared meal as a supplemental to whatever you're feeding your dog. And check that video out. I'll put the link down below to that video. But if you just want to start real simple, hard boil some eggs and throw some hard boiled eggs into your dog's diet to increase the animal protein. That's going to be an immediate usable source of energy, so your dog has that little extra kick that it needs. And again, this is just a suggestion. This is a doggy quick tips video, so it's meant to be quick, right? So that's the simple way to go about it, is add more food, add more animal protein. But again, check the back of the bag. That's just a recommended starting point, right? If your dog's too fat, you have to adjust accordingly as well. In this case, our dog is too skinny, so we have to increase the dog's daily caloric intake. Make sense? Good, I'm glad. There's one more thing we need to consider. Much like how certain dogs gain weight in the summertime because their bodies naturally slow down, the opposite is true for dogs that tend to get too lean. People will feed, say they have a 50-pound dog and they feed it 3 cups a day, and in the summertime, that's fine, the dog is good. But come, say, the following March or April, the dog really got skinny and they don't know why. Dogs burn more energy and more calories in the winter months because they need to generate heat. That's why if you ask any veterinarian, a lot of times they'll see thinner dogs that need to increase their body weight, usually in the early springtime. From a winter of maintained activity, but the same exact caloric intake. So naturally, they're going to lose weight. So in the winter months or the cooler months, you may need to increase your dog's food intake anywhere from 10 to 25%, depending on the dog. And you'll have to play around with what ration is appropriate for your dog. Well, I hope this helps, and again, check out my video on the supplemental feeding. That's something you can add to your skinny dog's diet. It's simple, it's cost effective, and it's healthy. Check it out. Again, I'll put that link below. It's Doggy Quick Tips. So in all my years as a canine nutrition consultant, obviously I've dealt with a lot of obese dogs and people just can't seem to figure it out. So a couple of quick tips. Number one, people have to understand, unlike humans, dogs tend to gain their weight in the summertime, not the winter time. Right? We humans, we tend to disappear in the winter, sit on the couch a little too much, eat a few too many potato chips, maybe watch a few too many movies. Well, that's what happens to dogs in the summer. As the heat rises, the dog's body naturally and biologically slows down, including their metabolism. So if we continue to feed them the same amount of food when the weather starts getting warmer, by the time September, October, November rolls around, ask any vet, people come in, my dog got fat, right? It usually starts way before people say my dog got fat. So keep that in mind. In warmer months or in low activity periods of time, whether it's injury or illness or something, you need to make sure that you adjust feeding accordingly. For instance, dogs in the summertime, they could eat as much as 25% less food than you normally would feed them. So, if you feed it 4 cups a day, once that hot weather rolls around, chisel down to 3 cups a day and kind of go from there. Another big factor I see is a dog gets a little chubby. Nothing crazy, but a little chubby. So, the owners, they look on the back of the bag and, they want to make sure they're feeding the dog the right amount of food, right? So they look, oh, my dog is 60 pounds. And they look at a 60-pound dog. 60-pound dog might eat 3 cups a day. So they say, oh, I don't know what it is then. I'm feeding them the right amount. Aha! Your dog is supposed to be 50 pounds, not 60 pounds, right? You need to lose weight, right? But these, a lot of owners, they look on the back of the bag what their dog weighs, and they look and they're overfeeding. The dog is just going to get fatter and fatter and fatter, right? You want to feed your dog what it's supposed to feed on the back of the bag, the guidelines, and then you adjust accordingly, right? If your dog is fat and overweight, you have to underfeed a little bit, okay? Now, with reduced calories also comes reduced vitamins and minerals, which most foods are fortified with, so you may want to add a vitamin supplement while you're in the process of reducing and shedding some fat off of your dog. But remember, when you look on the back of the bag, don't feed what your fat dog currently weighs. You have to feed less than what your dog's target weight is, okay? So let's look at this feeding chart. Let's assume that your dog is 55 pounds, and if you look at the recommended feeding for a 55-pound dog, it would be between 2 3/4 and 3 1/4 cups. So you would probably feed 3 cups a day. Aha! The problem is your dog should be 50 pounds. So it should be on the lower end of that spectrum at 2 3/4 cups. So you're overfeeding your 55-pound dog. Pretty soon he's going to be 60 and 70 and 80, etc. Okay? Keep that in mind. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And another thing too, if your dog is 5 pounds overweight, it doesn't seem like that much, right? Well, if a 55-pound dog is 5 pounds overweight, that's basically 10% of his or her body weight. That's equivalent to me, I'm 210 pounds, that's equivalent to me being 21 pounds overweight, which I probably am. So I got to turn over the back of my bag and adjust my feeding. All kidding aside, these are just some quick tips for you to consider if your dog is getting obese. Now keep in mind, this does not include dogs with any kind of health or medical issues. Obviously that's a separate thing. So, and these are just quick tips. So I hope this is some food for thought. Hey guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. Welcome to Doggy Quick Tips. Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for coming back to check out my videos. Today's quick tip, we're going to be talking about socialization. Socialization is probably one of the biggest shortcomings of most dog owners across the United States. I'm not sure how it is overseas, but here in the US it is one of the biggest shortcomings that dog owners are guilty of, if you will, right? And I think a lot of it has to do with not fully understanding what socialization is and how long it should go on for. When we bring home a young puppy, we know firsthand we have to do some basic training. We have to get that little puppy out and about and socialize it. So we bring it to a couple of stores, we take it for car rides, we go for a couple of little walks. And what happens is after a few months, the puppy is socialized and the socialization efforts, they start to decrease. Socialization isn't something that just ends when a puppy reaches 6 months old. We have to continually socialize and expose our dogs to different circumstances, different situations, different environments, different experiences in life. And no matter where you think you could possibly bring your dog, bring it to one more place. That's really it in a nutshell, and it doesn't stop when the dog is young. We have to continue socialization efforts throughout adolescence into adulthood and beyond. That is going to solidify our dog's social stability throughout its entire life. Think about humans, right? If humans aren't continually exposed to certain experiences, they may become deficient in that area. Dogs are similar in that regard, where they can become socially deficient as they get older if their social skills are not, kept up to par. And I think that's where we fail, is that we stop socializing our dogs, right? It's never ending. Keep socializing your dogs. No matter what situation, car, vehicle, walk, hike, stores, whatever you could think of, add one more location to it. And that's the key in socialization, is constant and consistent exposure to life. Right? I mean, why do we get dogs? We get dogs to share our lives and experiences with, right? Well, we may as well improve their life by giving them more experiences and more opportunities to perfect their social skills. I tell my clients all the time, there are 2 specific areas in a dog's life that if dog owners just did those 2 things, my job as a dog trainer might become obsolete. 1 is exercise, and 2 is socialization. If dog owners just exercise their dogs and socialize the heck out of them, they probably wouldn't need dog trainers anymore. I mean, let's face it, just about anybody can teach a dog to sit down, come stay, right? Well, it's the socialization and it's the lack of exercise and stimulation that usually leads to behavioral problems. So, at the end of the day, long story short, socialize, socialize, socialize. And when you think you're done, socialize some more. Hey guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. Welcome to Doggy Quick Tips. Today's tip is walk your dog every day. Okay, take that off. Come on. Got it? I know, the title says walking versus exercise. A little misleading, but not really, because my quick tip today is for you to understand the difference between the 2. Exercise is not walking, whereas walking can be exercise. We can take our dogs on a brisk walk or a jog or a hike, and those satisfy the physical exertion aspect that dogs need every single day, much like exercise. The big difference is the mental stimulation that is associated with walking our dogs or getting them out and traveling, whether it's a walk, a jog, a hike, whatever, okay? When we walk our dogs, they're gathering information, they're sniffing, they're inspecting, right? They're experiencing the world. It stimulates them. It helps them process the environment. And that has overall balancing effects on their behavior and their life. Whereas exercise, all it does is depletes, any kind of excess physical, hyperactivity that a dog might have, right? We've all had those dogs where it doesn't matter how much we run them, how much we, throw that ball or play tug with them, it always seems like they have that extra gear. Oh, good boy. That's a good boy. Good job. Good job. Good boy. Out. Out. Good boy. Sit. Good. Sit. Good boy. Go get it. Well, that's where walking comes in, right? To mentally stimulate them as well. So if you had to, you do both. You exercise your dog every day and you walk your dog every day, right? Walking can be exercise. Exercise is not walking. There's a difference. Got it? I'll shut up now. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment below, and I'll see you guys next time.